going to jump into the application. Usually when you enter into the CE application, you're going to enter into the field of dashboards. And what dashboards are great for is dashboards can be system-wide or they can be user-specific. So this particular dashboard, I kind of labeled as like a My Daily Dashboard. But basically what I want to point out on here is the different types of data that and how you visually see it. You can see I have a bunch of lists and I also have some graphics down here. So again, don't focus so much on the data you're seeing, but just the different ways that you can utilize the data within the system. Anything that's blue is considered a hyperlink. So from this dashboard, I can open any of the records that are on here. Within the dashboard, anytime you see a little caret or drop-down arrow next to the name of that particular section of the dashboard is a list of additional views or additional lists of data that you can see within that same thing. So because this was my daily dashboard, it's going to default to my active accounts. And when I say my, each record has an owner on it. So a lot of people in the sales industry will be a salesperson, and your industry might be utilized as a different name. So owner just kind of thinks they're kind of keeping track of that record, keeping it up to date, maybe communicating with the people on that record, so on and so forth. If I were to change this to just all of the active accounts in the system, I can now see a list of everything going on in this, every account record in the system. You also notice that when I changed the view, the fields changed. So again, you're not limited to just certain fields. Any field that's in the system that's tracking data, we could put on a view and put it on a dashboard for the user. So this was kind of one, and this one, like I said, was kind of mostly lists. I utilized this one because it talked about campaigns, and that's one of the things we're going to look at in our system is marketing lists and campaigns to help kind of reach out to your team. But what I like about this is, like I was saying, again, I don't have to jump into the system and deal down. I can click on, for this case, the email address, noticing it's opening up my Outlook to go ahead and email this person. So again, very interactive with just a click here or there to get to the records that I want to get. Just going to open up another dashboard real quick, just because it has some other graphics on it that I just want to show you. Now this one focuses on leads and opportunities and stuff. So again, maybe not the data you will need, but you can see it's got some different graphics in here that might be visually appealing to the users. I'm going to expand this one chart, and I'm only doing this so that it's bigger for the user to see. But within this ellipses, I can refresh the record so I know I have the most up to date, but I can also view a list of records. So again, I'm not stuck with this visual. If I click on view the records, now I'm still seeing the visual, but I'm also seeing the records that are associated with it. So another thing you can do within the chart itself is if I click within a certain data point of the chart, I can now drill down farther into that section of data. So this blue represents the opportunities that were in the qualified stage, and I can now distribute it down, or I'm sorry, I can filter down even farther to say, hey, let me sort this by who created them. Now that's probably going to mostly be me, but we'll go ahead and click on this. Now I'm seeing just that chunk of data, just the qualified data, but I'm seeing instead of who they were created. So if there was multiple users in the system, they would be different blocks of data. And it's still giving it to me by their revenue, estimated revenue. So again, I'm interacting within the data of this chart. I'm not going anywhere else. I'm staying on one screen, and with just a few clicks, I'm getting to drill down into the data. Power BI dashboards can be embedded in CE at the slicer level that says, hey, I want to see the information for this, healthcare or community healthcare. And then the other data points on that Power BI dashboard would then limit everything to whatever community healthcare center you chose.
One of the things that you can do is you can have as Janelle was pointing out, many of the dashboards and different dashboards having different kinds of information on them. So if you had, if Jason is looking for information on how his group with the education programs are doing in penetrating into the community healthcare organizations, he can have a dashboard that only shows the opportunities and the activities and the tasks associated with education. And if someone else is looking at quality, they could have a separate dashboard with looking at the same organizations, but only looking at the people and activities and programs associated with quality. So you can have many different views into the same set of data. And different individuals can, obviously you can flag account types, so you can have, the different organizations, but you can also flag the contact types, so you understand this is a provider or this is a quality person. Now, what opportunities, what programs are they having activities against?
And so thanks, Kevin, for jumping in and helping out.
No problem.
We're going to take a look at accounts and contacts, and this was kind of already brought up within the Outlook discussion, but your accounts is kind of the company or the business, or in your case, the healthcare centers that you're working with, and the contacts are the people that are associated within those organizations. I'm just going to go ahead and open up one here. Okay. This is a customer that got created. It's just called BML. Within this customer, it kind of tracks the basic information, where they're located, their phone numbers, things of that nature. But one of the things I wanted to point out is this particular customer is already pre-integrated with the BC or the Business Central ERP application. In a couple of ways I know this. First of all, my relationship type is customer. So anytime it's listed as customer, and again, this verbiage is configurable, so don't be stuck on the names that are here, but you can see that you could have many different, a list of many different types. So your, community health cares, your whatever type of the organization, you can be very specific, and then you can select which ones you want to integrate with your ERP system. Okay. The other way I can notice at a glance is over here, they have what's called the Dynamics 365 Business Central Customer Statistics. The first field gives me their customer number. So within Business Central, this is their customer number. So I can go in and I can look it up if I need to, and so on and so forth. But it also gives me some of their statistical information. And again, these fields are kind of what's out of the box, but we can definitely, if you don't want the user seeing all this, we could definitely remove some of them. But you can see it gives a lot of what we would consider that AR type information. What are their sales? What are their total invoices? How much is overdue? What is it the overdue date as of? Kind of think of it that way. What's their current balance on their account? What's their credit limit? But again, I know some organizations say, hey, that's providing way too much information to our users. Let's tone that down, and we can do that. So I just wanted to point out that there's data that is easily being integrated back and forth with the system.
In fact, the whole layout of this screen is configurable. We use this system, and in our system, it's dramatically different because we have different data for different sections of the company that we want populated on this screen. So that would be part of the implementation process, is looking at what you guys are wanting to accomplish and how you are dealing with, what kinds of accounts are there. There's certainly going to be the CHCs, but other types of accounts may have other types of data or different data that you want to track about them, other types of organizations.
So great segue, Kevin. That's kind of right where I was going. So again, the layout is kind of set up to gather the information on the left-hand side. The middle is what we call our timeline. I'm going to jump back on that in just a second. And then the right-hand side gives you any records you're related to, and then any integration information that's available. And when I say records you're related to, this is an account, but you can see I can pick up whoever my primary contact is. We're going to go ahead and give it to Brian. And that kind of brings me up some of Brian's information. What's Brian's address or email address? And I can add other stuff here. I can say I want to see Brian's phone number, or so on and so forth. As I scroll kind of down here, you can also see it, there would be additional contacts, what opportunities are open, what cases are open. So again, other data within the system or integrated systems that is related to this record. You also have the ability on the form to have multiple form types. So you can see if I click on this drop down arrow, there's other form types that are available, and those are configurable. You can have one or you can have multiple based on, you know, maybe different departments need different information and so on and so forth. Okay. Not going to spend a huge amount of time because I don't want to step on Brian's toes here either. But as you click through these tabs, you can see it's just gathering different information. And all these tabs are really doing is trying to keep the person focused that, hey, on this tab is what you need. But all of this is configurable 100%. If you are a user that has a license in CE and a license in BC, there is a button up here that if I were to click on this, it's going to open that record in my Business Central. So again, I have to have a license in both systems, but it does gives me the ability to then open the record in that other system and go take a look at it or do whatever I need to do with it. So again, I don't want to step on Brian's toes here, but you can see that here is the BC application, and all I did was click on one little thing in my ribbon. Okay. I'm going to jump down to contacts. And I feel like these two records, you know, they kind of go hand in hand. I'm going to actually open my own contact record here. Actually, I thought it was associated. So again, you see a very similar layout. The left-hand side is the information related to that person, name, phone number. The right-hand side is any information that I'm associated with, any other records in the systems I'm associated with. And the middle is kind of my, they call it the timeline, but it's basically anything that's going on with the account from the time it was, or contact in this case, from the time it was created, and then any additional emails that have gone out, or like you see, this is the one that we actually tracked. This is why I went to this account. This actually got tracked from the Outlook. So I can now work with this email, and just at a glance, I can say, or as Kevin mentioned, this could be on an activity list on my dashboard that I can see what's going on with this person at this level. Okay. One of the things that I want to point out is activities, except for emails that are being tracked, they do need to be closed within the system. That kind of takes them off of your activity list and your dashboards. It kind of finalizes the process. So when I create something new, like let's go ahead and just create a task real quick. I'm going to give this a due date of tomorrow. And then I can, again, this information you track on the different activities are configurable. So there's just some basic data here. I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. So you notice my activity line got refreshed, but it also shows us as it's still active. So tomorrow comes and goes at 8 o'clock. Now it's 9 o'clock. It's past the time. It's extended my duration. This would actually come in as showing it that it's past due. So either I didn't do it or I never marked it closed. So again, just from here, I can go ahead and check this to go ahead and close the activity. But I could also open the activity and add more details if I wanted to. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave this open because it's technically not due till tomorrow. The other thing I wanted to point out is I talked about in the Outlook discussion, this is the owner here. Again, everything is kind of showing as myself as the owner because I'm the only user in the system right now. So again, this could be a team. It's not necessarily related to one person. It could also be a team within the organization. So I'm just going to take a brief couple minutes here and talk about opportunities. So again, I just click on my opportunities entity over here on the left. And you can see I have a list of what's called my open opportunities. And again, these are records that I owned, I created. But you can see if I click on this drop down, there's many different views of the way the data was filtered that I could look at. This is kind of one of those things Kevin was talking about, like I can filter this data to show whatever I want and create a view and make it visible either to myself or to the organization. So within here, I'm just going to go ahead and open one of these. So again, very similar layout. The one side is basic information about the opportunity. The middle is the activities and timelines going on. And then the right would be any associated records. But one of the things that I wanted to focus on was this thing called the process bar at the top. What the process bar does is it kind of captures whatever your sales process is, or maybe even it's not a sales process. Maybe it's a process you go to create events or different things like that. These are very sales processy. You think qualify it, develop it, propose it, and then close it. These stages or gates, as we refer to them, are configurable. You can have as many as you want. You could have 1, you could have 20. It's completely up to you. Within each of these, if you were to click on and open it up, there are data fields that you want your team to capture before they leave this stage and move on to the next stage of the system or the process. So again, just to really, what's nice about it is it kind of keeps your team focused to the top of the form. They're not scrolling. They're not having to click on other tabs. It's keeping them focused in one simple spot to get the data in quickly. But again, completely configurable so it matches whatever your process is.
And Janelle explained the orange box with the type of process and then the bar related to that.
Kevin, it's like you're reading my mind. So as Kevin was saying, this kind of orange things will tell you what process you're on because you can have multiple processes in the system, but it also gives you the ability to tell you how many days this record has been open. So in this case, it's been open for 89 days. And I'm still in the qualified stage, so clearly I'm not doing a very good job. But what's nice with this is you can have multiple processes within your system. You're not stuck with one process across the board. And that process can be set based on the user who logs in, the type of opportunity it is, or if we repurpose this name, So again, the user doesn't necessarily have to select it. We can default it based on different criteria, either on the form or the user logging in itself. You can also branch a process. So maybe I really only have one process, but once I get into the develop or the propose stage, maybe it branches off a little bit. So I can branch within the different stages too. And again, that can be automated based on selections of the record.
Without getting into, there's a lot more complexity when you get into the project services module and project service management module, because it's just a lot more complex because it's built for an organization like TM Group that's selling services and managing large projects, or it's built for large construction companies. Now we may find out that is appropriate for you. I don't know. We haven't learned enough yet about you guys that your projects are complex enough that you want that capability. But a lot of times we just start out with let's just keep the basics and give us all the tracking information without adding all the underlying complexity that comes along with project service management.
Thanks, Kevin. One of the other things I wanted to point out on an opportunity, and this functionality is available throughout the system, it's just very easily visible here, is you can connect other records within the system to this opportunity. So an example might be, I have this opportunity, I'm trying to sell something or whatever, but I have somebody who has an influence on the potential sale, but maybe not the direct person that makes the decision. So an example might be a lawyer might be involved. Like, hey, I got to get this lawyer's, certain documentation or information. If that user's in my system as a contact or even another company, I could add their record here and associate the connection to this opportunity. So again, it gives me that visibility to see anybody or any company within my system that might have some type of say or influence or connection to this particular opportunity or any record in the system. Like I said, you can also do this at the account level and at the contact level. And it's real simple. I just say new connection. Who am I looking for? And because I know Brian's in the system, I'm going to type in him. and I'm going to go ahead and add him. And did I not hit it? There he goes. So it brings basically in his contact record for me. Now, this is kind of set up as just a sales team. You can see on the stakeholders, if I were to add a person here, it gives me the ability to select what their role is within this relationship. So I just opened up the one that was already connected. So this is Robert. He's a stakeholder, but I can select different roles. I could say he's a former employee, he's a colleague, in this list, you guys would select whatever this list was. So again, not only am I showing people outside associated with this, but also what is their role within here. So again, I just simply changed him to a champion of the opportunity. And as Kevin mentioned, you can have different tabs that hold different data. This was something set up for a previous demo. And then also you can, excuse me, you can have different integrations with Sharepoint. So what this allows you to do is it would embed the Sharepoint link right within the CE system. So your data would still remain and live in Sharepoint, just the links would be available within CE. And that's also available at any record besides just the opportunity. That can be done at the account, the contact, whatever records you selected. There is a direct integration with Docusign. The other one I think right now is Adobe Sign too. So they do have a CE integration that allows that, electronic signatures and contract management.
But sometimes all you have to do is have, like we do in our system, we have the fields in the process bar at the top with agreement has been signed with the sign date. It's just fields that we're tracking. So when we get an agreement back, we upload it to the opportunity, click that checkbox up in the process bar, and then that allows us to move it to the next stage. So you can do it integrated if you want, or you can just track it either way.
The next thing I'm going to show you, and it's the last topic before Brian takes over, is the marketing section. And again, it's referred to as marketing lists and marketing campaigns, but it can also, the idea of kind of tracking that, some, mailings for you or event tracking. So the first thing is the marketing list. So all this is doing is taking one of my data sets, either my accounts or my contacts, and kind of lumping them together based on whatever specific criteria. So in this particular one that I set up, again, I just called it demo for the purposes of today, but my list of members was just anybody that had a Washington address, because that's the address that everything was in the system. So again, the system went through and it looked and said, give me everybody that fits this criteria and add it to my list. My list can be static or dynamic. So if it is dynamic, anytime a new record gets entered into the system that meets my criteria, it automatically gets added to my list. If I want to add a new member or my criteria changed for whatever reason, it's real simple to be on this list, and I can just add new members from here, search for them, and go ahead and click add. A couple different ways I can add members individually, or I can create a view that those criteria list is in, and then just click add members. Once I have my marketing list, what I can do is I can go ahead and I can do a couple different things. I can do quick campaigns, which are basically activities that I want to happen with these members. So this one, what I did is I sent out an email to everybody in the list. It tells me that I sent out 15 emails and 15 of them actually got sent. Okay. And I'm just going to set one up real quick to show you a little bit different. So I just click on this new quick campaign, which is actually just a list or an activity. I can just give it a name. I'm going to call this one phone call, because this is, for some reason, I want to contact all these people. So the activity type is a phone call, but you can see I can do an appointment, I can do an email, whatever your list of activities are, the selection would be here. Okay. Now, a couple of different things that allows me to do here is I can assign the records all to myself. I can assign them to another user within the system. I can assign them to a team, or I can assign each one to whoever owns the record. So I have a list of contacts and maybe they're owned by multiple people and I don't want to make all these calls. I want them to make the calls. So what it's going to do is it's going to assign it to whoever owns the record and it's going to show up on their activity list on their dashboard. You could also do things like send them an email notification if you wanted to, again, depending on how you want your teams to be notified. Okay. So in this, that's why I selected this one, but you can see there's many options available here. I can give this all a due date. This is having it due within a week, so I could give them some time to call. And I'm just going to say, and then I could even give them a script in here. Like if I wanted to tell them what to say on the call, I could put that in here or so on and so forth. The other thing I know some people do is they leave the description box for the person who's making the call to then provide the feedback from the person they called or whatever. So again, you're just basically setting up the activity. I'll go ahead and hit next. This is just going through what I selected it to do. And I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And there it went ahead and set this up. Okay. Now this one is still pending because it's not due yet, but you can, this will update as the process takes place. So as the users kind of complete that, it will kind of fill this in and let them know. Okay. I can also do what's called a new campaign. This provides much more information. So this is where you might set up the event if you choose you wanted to track it here. So here would be where the actual, so I would send my team an email, or I'm sorry, my members an email about the new event, but here I could set up the event and see who responds and who's interested and then assign them to the event and whether, you know, they come and then continue to send them whatever materials they needed throughout the process. You know, maybe there's a link they need for virtual, whatever. There's a link that needs to go out and be mailed to them. You can utilize a template, which you would create that template or we would set up for you. And this is the one that I actually used. You can see it's not very exciting. It just was basically, it brings in the customer's or the contact's name. If you had the event name, obviously we would embed the event name in here and so on and so forth. But it doesn't have all your pretty graphics and stuff like that, like you can do in a specialty system.
Okay.
I mean, you can put logos on them. There's some basic things you can do, but if you want the bells and whistles, it's the third part. Constant Contact and Click Dimensions have a direct integration with CE that, of course, they provide much more information about the emails. They tell you who opened it, how, if they clicked on any of the links, stuff like that. CE basically just says, yes, they got it. Yes. I don't even think they tell us if it was opened or not. It just says whether or not they received it or they didn't receive it.
Right.
Now, I did want to point out there's this CRM tracking number. This is kind of how it's tracking it. The users don't necessarily. So it's not like the user that like Paul wouldn't necessarily see that. That tracking token, I guess. So again, so I'm going to jump back to the actual campaign here. So the quick campaign again is kind of focused on setting up those activities to communicate with the user, where the campaign is more. Let me just save this real quick so it opens up the rest of the record. Tracking what the organization is doing to accomplish something. So in your case, an event. So again, it's got the marketing list already tied to here. You can also have campaign activities. So maybe there's different things within your organization you have to do. Maybe there's a venue you have to call and set up. Maybe there's, again, you have to create the link and send it to the people. So you can create those activities for different users in your system to continue to track. And make sure they're getting accomplished and things like that. Obviously, you have your proposed time and your start and end times. Excuse me. And then you can also track financial information. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I think this is probably something that's going to be more done in your ERP system. But once it's completely all set up and functioning in the ERP, you could bring those information back in here. So you can say, hey, this event cost us, $10,000. We only had 5 attendees, or it cost us $10,000 and we had 500 attendees. So again, it gives you some of those kind of statistics that you can then track in the future. Okay. And again, this is just some of the out of the box. So if there was other data that you wanted to track, we would just add those fields to the form and then they'd be available to fill out. Within campaigns, these are, again, owner specific. So one person is kind of in charge of keeping this information up to date and track it. And it's going to show up on their list of stuff unless filtered accordingly. But this can also be teamed owned too. So again, if you had the technical team had an event, it could be owned by the technical team and then they could have the security rights to update everything and make changes.
So we've got 30 minutes left. If we don't have any other pressing questions, I'd like to go ahead and get Brian involved, or we're going to run out to show you anything with respect to the accounting side.